Okay, hi. I'm going to show you an example of something real quick of what we did in class today so you can just so you have some directions you can follow if you're trying to do it later. And that is creating an applet for parameter explorations. Open your GeoGebra. To do that, we'll always be using the algebra view and a graphics view with the goal of eventually having only the graphics view showing so it's not too much for students to look at. You can always change the views here if for some reason yours didn't open up with that. I am going to turn off my grid. I just did a right click, or I could have gone to this drop down to do it. My reason for doing that is that it's just too busy with things going on there and we don't need the grid. So let's say, for example, I want my students to explore a linear function. So I might say y equals mx plus b. Notice because there are multiple letters that I've used in there, literal symbols, it is assuming that two of those are parameters, the m and the b. So it gives me the choice to create a slider. So right here, I can just click create a slider, and there we go. And there's my, if I change my slope, if I change my y-intercept, we can see what happens there. If I want to have more values in here, I can change this from -10 to 10, or maybe you want to change it to like 1,000, -1,000 to 1,000, because you want people to get it really, really steep. So whatever your reasoning might be, keep in mind that you can do that. Didn't change. Try that again. You might need steps, so 0.01. There we go. So now my slope can change and get really, really steep really, really quickly, which is something that would be important for slope. And you could change the range on this as well the same way. Since we're exploring this sort of thing, we probably want the sliders to show up right on our graphical screen. So just by hitting these buttons, the sliders show up over here as well. Remember, you have to have your arrow to do things. So I got it too steep now. You can always use right and left arrows when you're on a slider to move it. If you're wanting to move it more slowly, just so you know, you've got that option. So moving it really, really slowly now using my sliders to do that. Okay, anyway, we can change the color of this if we want to, just by selecting, go to our settings and change the color. Maybe I want that to be red. That's fabulous. And maybe I want my sliders to match my line so I know which function on here it's being compared to. Settings color. There we go. So that all goes together. Maybe I want my equation to show up over here. And notice when I do that, it actually shows my values as they change right in that equation, which is fabulous. That's what I want. Okay. I can use a text box if I want to. If I want to give some directions to students, put student directions here, I can do that. And sure enough, again, if I want to move it, I have to be on the arrow, and I can move that, put it wherever I want. I can change the color on that if I want to. I can make my text bigger or smaller. Right here, I can make it really big text. And I can change it to purple if I want to. You can do anything you want there to draw student attention to things. So know that you've got that option. Rather than just dragging and dropping this equation here, I could have used a text box to put the equation in as well. So I can use my advanced form for that. If I want the equation to show y equals m, I've already defined my m, so I can choose my m right there. Notice it x plus, and then choose my b. Notice here it put boxes around those things. So now when I put it up here, those are linked. So as I change this, it shows up in there. So you can either drag and drop, or you can type it out yourself, make it bigger, smaller, different colors, etc. So that's always an option as well. Given that we are there. Ooh, look at that. Sorry, I'm having too much fun here. Given that we're wanting to compare this function to we're paying attention to how the parameters change, we might want to compare it to what we call the parent function. So the parent function for any linear function is the graph y equals x. So there it is right there. And so if you want, and you want to keep that on there so everybody always has that to compare to, or maybe you want to give students options if they want to see it or not. So you could do a checkbox, and a checkbox, maybe you want the checkbox right here, and the caption on that checkbox is show parent function. And then here, what is the parent function that we're wanting to show? Notice over here it's called line G is what it's defined as right there, so that's this one. So I've got a choice checkbox, show the parent function. If I uncheck that, oops, don't have my arrow selected. If I uncheck it, it disappears. So students have the option to have it showing or not. If it's showing, maybe I go into the settings and I can decide what I want that to look like. Maybe I don't want it, maybe I want it to be a dotted line for some reason. I can do that. So ultimately, we have this thing here that has all the things we want it looking the way we want. And notice the left-hand side, this gets really messy and probably not something could be very distracting for students, but this is where everything is defined that we have on our screen. What we can do now is go and actually turn off that algebra view, and we're working with just what we created here. Now you might, this is clearly not what you want it to be because this one's a mess, but you get the idea. Once this is the way you want it to be, your next job is to create the activity sheet or worksheet that goes with it that actually tells students what you want them to do with this and questions you want them to ask. So maybe it would be, in what way does M affect the graph? I'm not sure. It depends on what your goal is, what those questions are. To share this, we would go up here to File, and File Save or File Share. If you go through File Share and you do Public, it's going to put it, save it up into GeoGebra in your GeoGebra files. And then all you have to do is give students links to your GeoGebra files online, and there it is and good to go. So hopefully that was enough of a quick review of the different things we worked on today that you can try creating one of these on your own.